a wood grain layer to make it active. And then I'm going to change its mode from normal once again to multiply so that we use the wood grain to darken the contents of the frame layer. And you can see that we get this interesting interaction between the grain and the artwork. That's a little bit too much though. I'd like to see the grain not only in the light portions of the artwork, but in the dark areas as well. So I'm going to make a copy of this wood grain layer and adjust its blending settings. Now if I were to just press Ctrl J or Command J on the Mac to jump that layer, then Photoshop automatically takes it out of the clipping mask, as you can see. So it's no longer clipped to the frame and it's interacting with the entire composition. That's not what I want, so I'll press Ctrl Z or Command Z on a Mac. And instead I'll press Ctrl Alt J or Command Option J on a Mac in order to force the display of the new layer dialog box. The name wood grain is fine as is. You can have two layers with the same name if you like. But I'm going to turn on this checkbox right here that says use previous layer to create clipping mask. That way we'll keep this new layer inside the frame, and I'll click OK. And you can see over here in the layers panel, it continues to be clipped, so both layers are now clipped inside the frame layer. However, because the layer is set to multiply, we're darkening the frame even more. So I'm going to go back to the blend mode pop-up menu, and I'm going to switch it back to normal, which ends up altogether restoring the wood grain. Obviously, that's not what I want, because we have no interaction now between the wood grain and the artwork. What I want to do is reduce the opacity value to 50%. If you're working on a Mac, you can just tap the 5 key. But here on the PC, you can't, because the blend mode option is still active, as indicated by this blue highlight. To deactivate the option, you press the Escape key. Notice that that blue highlight disappears, and then you press the 5 key in order to reduce the opacity of that layer. And now we get this wonderful interaction of wood grain and artwork throughout the frame. There's just a couple more things I want to do here. First, if you look at these swirls, they're not really visually centered inside the frame. They are centered where the artwork is concerned, so going back to the alignment options won't help. What I need to do is just slightly nudge those swirls, which I can do from the keyboard. So I'll start by clicking on the swirls layer to make it active. And then, because I want to move that layer, I'll switch to the Move tool up here at the top of the toolbox, and then I'll just press the arrow keys on the keyboard. So here I am zoomed out to 33%. If I press the right arrow key, then I'll nudge the swirls to the right 1 screen pixel. In all, I'm going to press that right arrow key 5 times, and that'll get the swirl centered horizontally. Now, the reason I mentioned my zoom ratio, 33%, is because I'm nudging in screen pixels. So if you're zoomed farther in, you'll nudge the artwork that much more. Now I'm going to press the up arrow key 3 times in order to nudge the layer slightly upward as well. The last thing I want to do in this movie is to color the wall in the background. So I'll go ahead and scroll to the bottom of the list and click on the wall layer to make it active. And then I'll click on the FX icon down here at the bottom of the layers panel and choose Color Overlay once again. Again, Photoshop goes ahead and recolors the entire layer red. I'm going to click on that red color swatch to bring up the color picker dialog box. I'm looking for a dark shade of green, so I'll change the hue value to 75 degrees. I'll reduce the saturation value to 35%, and I'll take the brightness value down to 50%. Then I'll click OK. And now to use that color to darken the wall, I'll change the blend mode from normal to multiply. And then I'll click OK. And we end up with our final dark green wall. So that's our composition so far. In the next movie, we'll finish off the artwork inside the frame by adding a couple of additional blended layers.